With that, welcome everyone to the UNC MSDI Open House. We are so glad you're here. One thing that I say before I ever present is just a reminder that your wellness is important to us. So, whatever you need to do to take care of your needs, if you're able to get up and move around while you're viewing the session, if you're eating and drinking, whatever you need to do, please don't hesitate to do that. As I mentioned, we are recording, so if you would like to leave your camera off, you can. However, it won't be visible unless you ask a question at the end because of the speaker view. So whatever you feel comfortable with, but we love to get to know you, your face and your name. And with that, we would love for you to get to know us as well. So that's how we're going to kick things off today. We recognize that learning who the program coordinators and directors are could be very important to your decision. And so we are going to take a minute to introduce ourselves. I will begin, and my name is Brianna. I work closely with our director with the MSDI and the DI program. So we coordinate both of those programs. I'm also an adjunct instructor, and a little bit of background about me is that I'm originally from Rochester, New York, and I moved to Baltimore to complete my internship when I was matched to the Johns Hopkins program in Baltimore. And that's where I started my career. I started in oncology and I floated around the hospital. I did high risk OB, both inpatient and outpatient, cystic fibrosis, and my final specialty was in the cardiovascular surgical ICU, which was also the COVID unit that patients were being transferred to from throughout the state and throughout the East Coast. So my passion really lies in parenteral and enteral nutrition in critical care. But I also have a passion for sport and exercise science, and I actually just concluded my master's here at UNC in sport and exercise science. So I was able to combine my love for dietetics with exercise physiology. And with that, I'll hand it to Dr. Boldrin.
All right, thanks, Brianna. And welcome to everybody. My name is Dr. Emily Boldrin. I am the Dietetic Internship Director. I have been at UNC since April, so I'm new to the university, but not new to higher ed and being a internship director. I have been in higher ed since 2003, so a little over 20 years now. Time really flies. And this is what I love to do. I knew I wanted to be in higher ed since I was in college because the professors made such an impact on me. So I hope that passion comes across and that if you decide to apply to a program and you're accepted to a program, that you know that as faculty at the university, wherever I am, and I've been mainly online since 2009, my career has been online programs. My goal is to make students feel part of a community and connected with us, the program, and with each other. We have students right now in their internship, and we meet once a week. We do learning sessions. Sometimes it's just check-ins, whatever the student needs, we're always available. And they also have their own community of support. They're texting each other. They're in I'm not sure what groups they're in, whether it's WhatsApp or just text message, but they're all connecting with each other and supporting each other. My educational background is in my bachelor's is in exercise physiology. And I decided that I needed to advance my career because if you have a bachelor's in exercise physiology, there's not much room for advancement professionally. So I followed my professor to Oklahoma State, where I got my master's in nutrition and where I learned about being a registered dietitian. I had no idea what that was prior to that. And so I completed my DPD courses while I was doing my master's. And then I did my internship while I was doing my PhD and working. So I am kind of a late bloomer to the dietetics world, but I also know what it's like to juggle a lot. And I know typically our graduate students are juggling a lot as well. So we're here to support you, and UNC is a great place to be if you're considering it. So.
I completely agree, Dr. Bolton. Thank you. Okay, so this open house is intended for applicants to our MS in Dietetics with Dietetic Internship, or MSDI. So it's ideal for applicants that do not possess a graduate degree. If you are viewing this and you already have a graduate degree or are in the process of completing one in any field, you do not necessarily have to do the MSDI. You might consider our DI standalone. We did host an open house specific to that, so that is visible on our website, and we can send it to you as well if you happen to meet that criteria. Keep in mind that the application processes are different for each application, so just be sure you are determining which one is best for you before starting that application. The other thing I wanted to note was that we will use the terms dietetic internship and supervised practice interchangeably. We're moving toward using the term supervised practice because it more correctly depicts what it is that you're doing. But I will be abbreviating that portion of your program as DI, just like it is in the title of the program. Okay, so a bit about why we feel that UNC is unique and a great place for a lot of students. So back about 30 years ago, there were only traditional programs, and what I mean by that is programs where you were required to reside in the location of the program in order to go complete your rotations. So UNC came along back in 1995 and decided, what if we allowed interns to rotate in locations other than Greeley, Colorado? What a thing. So, we recognize that there aren't internships in every city, and in order to make this field attainable for people, this might be a good option for them. So now there are several distance internships that you all can choose from, as well as several MSDI programs. So you've got plenty to choose from, but we are grateful to have been around for 30 years, networking, expanding our professional network, finding preceptors for you all across the country from Florida to Alaska, and supporting our interns now going on our 31st year. About 9 years ago is when we developed our MSDI. Similarly, when our MSDI came along, we were one of few. And again, now there are many. So you all have options to choose from. Sometimes that makes things more overwhelming, but hopefully you look at that as a positive so you can really choose a program that best meets your needs. As mentioned, you do not have to relocate to Greeley, where UNC is located. In fact, you never have to set foot in Greeley, should you choose not to, unless you happen to have a rotation there. So generally, most MSDI and DI interns are not relocating. Some do relocate temporarily for a rotation if you happen to reside in a geographical location that doesn't have a large hospital or something, and you need to temporarily relocate. But we work hard to keep our interns as close to home or as close to wherever they want to be as possible. Some of our interns choose to travel the country, and just find rotations all across the country. Some other aspects that might be interesting to you, we offer a full-time and a part-time option, which we'll go into more detail in future slides. We also have a capstone option. So if you have never heard of a capstone before, you may have heard of the term thesis or dissertation. It's basically a large research project that you'll be conducting and writing. If you are on our 3-year track, you have the option to complete a capstone. However, if you're uninterested in research and you don't have a future career goal that includes research or higher ed, then you may choose to forego that altogether and just complete the comprehensive exam, um, which has been designed to prepare you for the RDN exam. Um, so that's for our 3-year track students. Our 2-year timeline students will just do the exam and not the capstone. And that is all information that we'll share with you in detail. This is just a broad overview for you. Continuing on, this slide really pertains to the supervised practice portion of your MSDI. So being distance, that means that you have a lot of autonomy over which facilities and preceptors you are choosing. And with that, we offer you support to help you get there. So what I mean by that is we give you education on all things related to the supervised practice. We provide you a list of preceptors from which you can choose preceptors, or you can go into your own professional network. These are all things that we spend a significant amount of time helping you with, regardless of where you are. And so, I wish that this wasn't really unique to UNC. I wish that this was something that every program does, but it isn't always the case. A lot of times, distance interns and students are more left to their own devices to figure it out, especially if they don't happen to be in the state in which the university is. So if you are looking at other distance programs and that type of support is important to you, that might be something that you ask so that you have all the information up front. We also offer something that allows you to shorten the internship. So the internship requires 1,000 hours. Some programs require 1,200. Our program, if you have extensive experience in the field, can allow you to shorten those hours. That is a process that we will educate you on once you're in the program. It's not anything that you should be doing now, other than if you have a job and you're considering, should I continue with this job? Should I seek alternative employment? If it happens to be a job in food or nutrition, then it may be able to be counted towards APL. And it's an application process that we will guide you on when the time comes. The other thing that's unique is that we do allow your rotations to be financially compensated if that is an option. So what I mean by that is there are some preceptors and facilities that have a grant or they have positions for dietetic interns that are paid. And through HR, that's all, they're only able to accept paid interns. A lot of internships don't allow that. And the reason is because we don't want you seeking a job and then asking if that boss can be your preceptor. Because there's a fine line between your work hours and your supervised practice hours. So that is something that we can accommodate if that arises for you. And then also RDN exam prep. That occurs throughout the program. It really kicks into high gear come supervised practice year because we've got example test questions and material as well as a tutor that we've been hiring. And Dr. Boldrin will chat about some specifics pertaining to the program.
Okay. So this is about the structure of the MSDI, and the next few slides will kind of go into it a little bit more, but generally speaking, what the program is, it's a master's degree, 41 credit hours total, and 10 of those are particular to your dietetic internship. The tuition cost is $698 per credit hour. Now this is this year's tuition cost. It might go up next year. We don't have that information quite yet. There are also additional costs for rotation onboarding. So it is separate from tuition, but it's something that you should be aware of. So what that means is let's say you're going to go to your clinical site. Well, before you go to your clinical site, that site requires you to have a background check. They require you to have vaccines. They require you to have a drug screen. those sorts of things. And generally speaking, all rotation sites will require those. And so we have a list of requirements that most all um, require. And so you'll work through those. And then there might be like an additional requirement for a specific site. For example, some food service sites, if you're going to go to a school, they'll require you to do fingerprinting in addition to your background check or in synchronous with your background check. So just be aware of those types of things. It's very hard for the program to estimate those costs because it is one state specific, it's site specific. So just be aware of that. For the MSDI, the curriculum, it is asynchronous online courses. That includes the dietetic internship course that you'll enroll for 10 credits. Everything is online and asynchronous. With exception to the dietetic internship course, there is what we call student hours that we hold once a week. And I think I mentioned that in the introduction that we have speakers and we answer questions, we do case studies, those sorts of things. But it's very flexible for the online learner.
Thank you, Dr. Goldren. So let's chat more about specifics of what you can expect. So we've recently instituted an option to complete your MSDI over 2 years or 3 years. We recognize that every student is very different in what their needs are, and we want to do our best to accommodate that. So we also recently decreased the credit hour requirement, so it's more attainable financially, and also you're taking fewer classes. So that's something that we've done just over the past year. So regardless of which track you choose, the credit hour requirement is the same. And then when it comes time to do your DI, you can do that full-time or part-time. You're not locked into full-time or part-time DI just because you've chosen a 2-year track or a 3-year track. And we'll also, as we get to know you and your education needs and your commitments, we'll help guide you on choosing that when the time comes for the DI. So if you choose the 2-year track, it's, as you might expect, more rigorous because it's condensed. So you're taking courses while you're completing your supervised practice. And then at the end, you'll take a comprehensive exam that's designed to demonstrate all that you've learned and also help you prepare for the RDN exam. So the studying that you do for that should really transfer over quite nicely to the RD exam. The 3-year program, it's really only 2 years and 9 months, or 2 years and 10 months, but just rounding up to about 3 years. This is more attractive to individuals who maybe need to remain employed and or care for a family throughout this time. And that's not to say that if you choose the 2-year track, you have to completely put your life on hold for 2 years. We recognize that there are family matters and that you may need to maintain part-time employment. But we do expect that you'll make arrangements to dedicate the time that you deserve and require for that education. We want to make sure you make the most of that time. If you choose the 3-year option, you are only taking a couple of classes at a time, and then you also have the option to choose a capstone. We've elected to just have that available to our 3-year tracks because of the time that it takes to complete the capstone. We want that to be done before you do your supervised practice so that you're not trying to do both at the same time. So if you are a visual person like I am, I tried to make this pretty succinct for you as you think about if this program is right for you. So the 2-year program, come fall, so August of 2026, you'll be taking courses, you'll be considered a full-time graduate student, and you'll be expected to be performing preceptor outreach, so contacting potential preceptors who might be able to host you for your internship. So that fall can be pretty busy. And then spring, you're just taking those 3 courses. And then summer, you're not technically taking any of those graduate courses. The only quote unquote course that you're enrolled in is that supervised practice course. And then you'll start your rotations. So summer is really focused on that internship. And then come fall, you're continuing your supervised practice, but then you're starting back up with courses in the fall. And then same thing with the spring. And around that time is when you'll be taking your comp exam. And now I've noted summer year two, so we're talking summer of 2027. You can spill over if you need to for your supervised practice, if you have a rotation that is scheduled that summer, or if you need more time to complete those hours, you have that option. So if you're a full-time dietetic intern, you'll finish in spring, and if you're part-time, you'll finish in summer. So that's kind of why I said, although you're in the 2-year track, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't be considered a part-time intern. So I just didn't want you to get confused with that language. So the 3-year track, of course, you're doing all of the same things, just that the timeline is different. So the first fall looks pretty similar because you're taking 3 courses. And the only real difference is that you're not expected to prep for your internship yet. In fact, we don't recommend that you do so. It's just too early. And then in the spring, you're only taking 2 courses, and your first summer is completely off from coursework and internship. And then year 2 looks pretty similar to year 1. It's that online, the asynchronous courses, but here's where you'll start your DI prep. And then your capstone will kind of you'll be completing pretty much throughout these 2 years on and off, if that's what you choose to do. And then come summer of 2027, you'll start your internship, and then you'll just be expected to focus on that supervised practice. You won't be taking any courses during that time. So you can see everything, you fit everything you need to, regardless of which option you choose. It's just a matter of the timeline. You don't have to have that decided yet. So don't feel as though you need to decide before you apply. We will just have you decide probably in spring or summer, and then set you up on that track. But I just wanted to give you an overview here so that you could start to think about it and determine if that's going to work for you. Okay. And so kind of speaking about, we've referenced this dietetic internship. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Dr. Bolden is going to start us off here.
Perfect. So what you just saw in the last slide was kind of the overall schedule of how your classes would look and how your dietetic internship would look. And you notice that Brianna had mentioned like DI planning course. And what that is partly, and she'll talk more about it, is learning to identify rotations for your dietetic internship. One of the things that is comes with a distance dietetic internship is that we do have student identified rotations. And programs that are not distance typically will tend to have more program identified rotations. And what the difference is program identified rotations, they say, okay, we're in Denver, Colorado. I have talked to this hospital and this hospital and this hospital, and they have 3 slots at each hospital. And I have 9 students. I'm going to put 3 students here, 3 students here, and 3 students here. That's really program identified. You typically don't have options. The student doesn't have options as to where they want to go. They're just placed where there are slots available. Student identified rotations is where the student, because we are not located where you are, the student goes out into their community or their geographical location that they want to be in, and they identify those rotations. They talk to the preceptors. They say they try to get the preceptor to support them, and the preceptor said, "Yes, I'll support you, send me your schedule." So It is more work in terms of the student identifying their rotations because it requires you to do networking. It requires you to kind of get outside of your comfort zone and ask people to support you. I think though there are, and so those are kind of the challenges. The benefits, though, are that you really get to I would say tailor your experience to what you want it to look like. So let's say that you know that you're interested in sports dietetics. Well, you can go and you can work with a sports dietitian, um, at their private practice, or you can go to a university and work in their fueling station and for food service. So there's options that you wouldn't get in a program identified rotation experience. Um, I will also say that you can kind of mix and match, right? Maybe you want to do, maybe you're not decided and you want to do sports dietetics, or maybe you're interested in private practice or renal. You can really tailor those experiences. Um, and I think also one of the benefits is it does get you out there in the community networking. So when it comes time for you to start your job search, you've already made connections. Maybe, you connect with somebody who isn't able to support you, not that they don't want to, but circumstances just don't allow that, and you see a job posting out their site and you say, oh, well, I already know this person. I reached out to them. Let me reach out to them and learn more about the job position. So you're networking. And then also when it comes time for you to get a job in the field, if you've done your internship somewhere, you're already in that spot, right? You're already, let's say Denver. You live in Denver, you did your internship in Denver. That person, they can be more secure in offering you a job because they don't think, oh, well, they're going to have to move from New York City to take this job. No, you're in the community where you're going to be working. And so as a result, we do have a lot of students that get job offers after their internship because they are already in that community. Um, so that's the student identified rotations. So part of this process of identifying rotations is building what we are calling a rotation summary. And that you'll work on that in that course. But that basically is an Excel spreadsheet, and it helps the program and you keep track of what you've reached out to and where you're going to do your internship. So, for example, if you're saying, okay, I'm going to do my food service in Tulsa, Oklahoma, um, and Brianna's looking at it and be like, oh, well, we just had an intern there in Tulsa and they did their community at such and such. So Brianna can say, oh, why don't you try reaching out to this person? So it really helps the program guide you, and it communicates to us that you have a plan. You'll enter in your rotation dates, and it helps keep you on track and helps us keep you on track as well.
Thank you, Dr. Boldrin. So this is the course that Dr. Boldrin just referenced. You may have a similar course even in your DPD program where you are learning about how to apply for the next step of your education. And so this is similar to that. We teach you everything you need to know about the supervised practice, along with those skills that you'll take with you, including resume writing and skills for selling yourself and with the first goal of obtaining a preceptor and then later an employer. So just know that we support you in that, both as a group and one-on-one. Now, since the topic of cost is understandably one that comes up quite a bit for most students, we're going to take a moment to chat about that. So the first thing I'll mention is that UNC does not have a fee to apply to our MSDI. Now, this is not to say that Diecast doesn't have a fee. Diecast actually does charge a fee to use their portal, and that just stays in Diecast. So a lot of programs also have a separate program-related application fee that to cover the cost it takes to review your application. We've opted to abolish that in order to make this more accessible for you all because we recognize the cost is significant, even just to apply. Also, some universities have in-state tuition, which is significantly lower than out of state. This program is the same for all students. We also offer financial aid for graduate students who are enrolled in 5 credits or more per semester. And then there are a variety of scholarships. There are those A&D scholarships that we can guide you toward. UNC has scholarships, including generally, we offer a scholarship to cover some costs associated with attending FNCE, which, if you're not familiar with FNCE, it's that large food and nutrition conference where you can go network and learn about the field. We also have grad assistants. These are spots for our Colorado students. Generally, they'll work 16 hours per week. They'll get some tuition reimbursement, and they'll also get a stipend. And then also, you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't eventually intend to seek employment. And so we help you with that throughout. Not only by preparing you through cover letter writing, or through the Career Readiness Center at UNC, but we also send our students and graduates job listings. We have a lot of people who will send us listings, sometimes even before they've reached the public. So you kind of get the first eye on that. And that's because we have such an extensive preceptor network that those preceptors at those facilities, when they're hiring, you all sometimes are the first to know about it before it gets posted on Indeed and LinkedIn, or as soon as it gets posted at the very least. Okay, so now that we've know everything really that there is to know about our program at this point, let's talk about what to do to apply.
Okay, so if you look on our website or if you've been in DICUS, you'll see that we require a bachelor's degree. That can be in any field. It can be in finance or nutrition. It doesn't matter. But you do have to have a DPD verification statement and a GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale.
And then when it comes to applying, these are our requirements. We do ask that you have 3 references, one from a dietetics professor or advisor, one from a current or former supervisor at either a job or a volunteer position, and the third is any professional reference, someone that's professional, not just a family friend, preferably. And then this is what our program looks like in DICAS. You can search University of Northern Colorado and make sure you're choosing our MSDI because again, we also have a DI standalone that doesn't include the master's and that application and program is different. Now you may be wondering what we hope to see in our applicants. And here's a list of qualities we hope to see. Communication, which comes in many forms. It's especially important for a distance program because we can't catch you after class, you know what I mean? So if you're not reviewing emails and responding in appropriate timelines, it's hard for us to know what's going on with you. And we always want to be involved, even if, you're going through something personally. If it's impacting your education, it's important for us to at least know that something is going on. Kind of along the same lines are professionalism. So we expect professional communication, both in written and when we speak to you verbally. And kind of similar is leadership. Our mission is to produce leaders in the field, and we want to see that you have leadership potential or that you've held leadership positions in a club, on a team, in a job. So highlight those aspects. And then another component about being distance is adaptability, particularly with online courses. So not everyone has taken online courses. And if you haven't, it's important that you recognize that they are different from in-person courses. We want to know that you can thrive in this environment because we want you to succeed. So that might be something that we ask you in your interview. Maybe if it doesn't appear that you have experience with distance learning. And then adaptability also goes along the lines for your supervised practice. We're looking for you to be flexible and adaptable. So you may have a rotation scheduled and something happens, like perhaps a government shutdown, or at least a shutdown of that government subsidized food program. And you may have been planning to spend 300 of your 1,000 hours there, and that program no longer exists. So you are now without a rotation. And that happens, certainly. And so we recognize that that might be stressful for you. It's stressful for us too because we're not just leaving you alone to figure it out. We're assisting you and supporting you. So it's okay to feel stressed. But we want you to be able to respond appropriately and to be able to adapt and to accommodate to that change. Because we need to know that we can work strategically together. You know, you can have a little meltdown. We all do that. And then you get back on your feet and you make it happen. And that's part of the real world. And it's certainly part of a distance internship. And so we are hoping to see people who are willing to be flexible and adaptable. And then, of course, given that this is pretty much your last step before you become a dietitian, you know, you've been in school for a long time. And so, of course, looking at your extracurriculars, including work and or volunteer experience is something that we want to see because you'll be going out into the world in your supervised practice, and then just after that, as an entry level practitioner. So if you have experience, that's fabulous. If you don't happen to have food and nutrition experience, that's also okay. Don't eliminate that from your application. Still input that and perhaps highlight the qualities from that position that will make you a quality applicant, whether that be your leadership and management skills, your compassion, your organization. No experience, you know, is irrelevant when you're able to highlight those qualities. Okay, so when it comes to the application and then the next year or so, we recommend if you haven't already started at least looking at the application requirements that you do so now. You're all viewing this either live or recorded, so you've already made that first step, so congratulations. So go ahead and get that application started. Ideally, start by asking those professionals to write your recommendations because it might take them some time and they may be off for university breaks or holidays. So you want to give them a thorough time to write a thorough review for you. You do not want that to be a last minute, like, oops, I forgot to ask this person, so now they're writing it the night before the application is due. Give them some time to do that. Our application is due February 1st. Other programs may have different dates, so make note of that. We have been reviewing applications that as they have come in. So we've already had several come in that we've reviewed. So you're welcome to submit it at any point, but you have until February 1. If February 1 rolls around and you haven't been able to do it, we might be able to extend that deadline if we have open slots. So please don't rely on that as plan A. But if it, you know, comes around and maybe you thought you weren't able to apply, but then decided that you did want to get that in, you're welcome to email us and ask if we have slots, because we might. So keep that in mind. And then come March 1, you will hear from us if you've been accepted or not. Every program is required to tell their applicants by March 1st. We will likely tell you sooner, but we may end up taking some time so that we can compare all of the applications and make the most informed decision. You then have 2 weeks to make your decision. Of course, I think I speak for every program when I say if you know sooner, tell us sooner. Especially, let's say you've decided, okay, you got into 5 programs and you're deciding between 2. Go ahead and let those other 3 know that you have opted to choose another program so that they can then offer that slot to someone else. That potential other applicant will be very appreciative of that, and so are we. Don't feel pressured to make a decision before March 15th. But please let us know by then, regardless of your decision, even if it's a no, even if you've chosen another program, even if you've decided, I actually don't want to do an MSDI at all because my life has changed and my goals have changed. Please let us know. We so appreciate that. It's a professional courtesy. It's a hard email to write, but it's one that probably won't be your first hard email that you ever have to write. So that take that as part of your education, if nothing else. And then should you choose our MSDI, by spring to summer is when we'll ask you to have made a decision about the timeline track. So the reason we ask for this prior to fall semester is because your courses differ depending upon which track you've chosen. So again, don't feel as though you need to make a decision on that right now. Just make sure that you have thought about it and made your decision by the deadline that we provide, which hasn't yet been established. And then you'll be registering for courses. And then come August, we usually have a 1 day virtual orientation, which gives you the opportunity to meet your peers, to meet the UNC faculty, and to kickstart your graduate degree. So, moving forward, I wanted to share a couple of next steps for you if you've got your to-do list out. The first one is to review the website. So you might think this goes without saying, and hopefully since you're viewing this, you've already accessed our website at some point. But I'm going to say it again. Before you apply to programs, make sure you know what you're getting into. Make sure you know that they're going to be a good fit for you based on what they offer and what their timeline looks like. Um, I it's shocking how many interviews I've conducted where the applicant didn't fully seem to understand what program they applied to and what all was involved in the program. Um, or the application was incorrect or incomplete or something. So review the website, add that to your to-do list for every program that you apply to. Begin your DICAS application, at least become familiar with the program, and also contact those individuals who you intend to ask for letters of rec. Please ask them before inputting their name into DICAS. That is also a professional courtesy. They may ask you to send your resume, so that they can review your qualifications and correctly speak to them. Don't assume that your professors know all of the jobs that you've worked. They may not. Or, you may have told them at one point, but they may. It's helpful for me when I write a letter to have everything all in one place. And then, as always, we are here to support you. So email the dietetic.internship@unco.edu if you have questions. Depending on what your situation is, we can have you meet with one of our wonderful admissions coaches, or with one of us. But don't hesitate to reach out and don't hesitate to follow up. If we happen to not get back to you within a few days, just get that email back to the top of our inbox, so that we can provide you with an update on where we are in finding you an answer to that question. So speaking of questions, I hope that some of you have some questions for us. If you do, if you have the feature to raise your hand within Zoom, or you can raise it physically, or you can type into the chat, and I will open that up now. I'm also going to put our email in the chat just so you have it handy in case you don't already, as well as our website.
I had a question.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
would you mind sharing your name and your pronouns so that I know how best to refer to you?
oh yes, Kendall Helms, she, her.
Thank you.
So I was reviewing, I have to look back. I think it was the website, and it was all the connections y'all have throughout the country. So I'm in Florida, and I do have some connections within the realm that I could possibly have as preceptors. However, I am interested in moving to a new city and then um doing all my rotations in that city. would we be allowed to pick from the lists y'all have and then go from there? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. So just to repeat the question and make sure I understand. So Kendall, you reside currently in Florida. You're considering relocating, and you're wondering if you can complete your rotations there. Um, is it using preceptors that are not already on our list? Is that what you're asking?
No, I was
Or,
just curious if I could use the preceptors on your list, say in Denver, and
oh,
live in Denver and go about it that way instead
absolutely.
of,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no, I mean, just because you live somewhere currently doesn't mean we expect you to stay there. In fact, a lot of people choose a distance program because maybe they or a family member are in the military and they don't know where they're physically going to be, or they want to relocate and are even choosing rotations in cities that they just want to visit for a few months at a time. So absolutely, Kendall. And the list that and I'm not sure if we've communicated through email yet, but for all of you, for your information, the list that we have is every preceptor who has precepted for us and indicated their willingness to host future interns for every state. So the list is about 850 preceptors long. And it's organized by state. So you can just go to the Colorado section and look at Denver and Broomfield and Boulder and Westminster and choose to contact only those people.
And I would contact them myself once I get to that section, like y'all were mentioning, like in the class when we were planning it, correct?
Exactly. So
Okay.
so typically you are the one doing all of the contact, and then I usually intervene if you're running, into roadblocks. So you'll be making a list for me, and if I'm seeing that every preceptor you've tried has said no, then that's usually when I intervene and see if maybe coming from the program rather than the intern, they're more willing to accept or accommodate. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. And I think, is it Carolina? Is that correct?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't unmute. Yes, it's Carolina.
Carolina, apologies.
No, you're good. So I was looking at the timeline that you had up with, like the 2 versus the 3 year program. And if I remember correctly, the 2 year program, we're completing the internship over 3 semesters, correct?
Yes, it is 3 or 4 semesters if you need
Okay.
that fourth one.
Okay. Well, I guess my first question would be how many hours a week does full-time internship look like?
Great question. Typically 30 to 40. However, you don't have to do that every week. A lot of times, I mean, I always recommend that interns take 1 to 2 weeks in between each rotation to kind of focus, refocus their mind. Sometimes an intern will choose like one rotation for 300 hours, but others they'll do like 100 hours at one place, 100 hours at another, so they'll kind of be jumping around. So that's dependent upon your schedule and your preceptors and what they can accommodate. Some preceptors only work part-time, so even though you're designated as a full-time intern, you may have a rotation where you're only there for 20 hours a week because that's how much the preceptor is there. So it's pretty flexible in that regard. It's more so about like timeline to completion. So, in other words, like if you are finishing your internship after April, you'll be considered part-time, even if you're just extending into May. Um, and so it's more so about how many credits you're registering for each semester rather than like how many hours per week. But you can't rotate more than 40 hours per week. That is a clear guideline. Other than that, it's variable depending on you and your preceptor.
Okay. Okay. I do have a small follow-up question. And that is if like the stars align and it can be accommodated with like me and my preceptor, would it be possible to complete that internship in 2 semesters and change, like maybe like a little bit into like semester number 3? Like if I'm working 40 hours a week, not working, but doing my internship 40 hours
Yeah.
every week, I don't know how many weeks we have per semester yet, but like I'm kind of doing like loose math.
Yeah.
Would that be allowed? I
So yes, are you thinking of the 2-year program or the 3?
the two, sorry,
The
2 years.
2. So yeah, so you'd still be taking courses in the spring anyway. So like some of our interns finish rotations in February, others in April, and they're all considered full time. So
Okay.
absolutely, if you're really going for it, you could technically be done with rotations and then just be taking your courses in the spring for most of that semester. Yeah.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolina. And I saw it looks like Ida in the chat. Do you have a question?
Yes. I wanted to know how many students you guys allow or in the program, if
Yeah,
that.
we accept 30 MSDI students and 30 DI standalones, and there's no number like per track. So it's not like half have to do 2-year, half have to do 3-year.
Okay.
So yeah,
So 30 in total for the MSDI program.
correct.
Okay. And my other question is, so with the preceptor list, so I live in Virginia. So with having a preceptor list, I have to physically go and talk to them about potentially doing my rotations there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Call, email, or sometimes it's easier to just
Physical.
go in person.
Yeah. And then my last question is, so I've been working with the women, infant, and children for the past 7 years. Would that
Oh,
be accepted as is the APL?
APL, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely count as, you could apply using that job. And then how that works is it's competency based. So if you can
Mhm.
demonstrate that you've met a certain number of competencies, then that will determine how many hours you're awarded.
Okay.
So 7 years, that's incredible.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad to hear that. Thank you for that work. It's important
Thank
work.
you.
And so when the time comes, we'll ask you to submit several projects. And then depending on if we felt that they met certain competencies, we will then award hours accordingly.
Thank you, Brianna.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Boldrin, do you know your hand is raised? Did you have something to say? I know you're driving, so I wasn't sure if that was intentional. Okay, kind
Okay. I had a couple questions. The first one being, with like the graduate assistants, I live in Windsor, so I'm very close. How do you go about applying for that, and when do you apply for that?
that is, I think, I'm not sure. I would have to ask our graduate coordinator. I think that application would occur like in spring or summer. And also keep in mind that just because it's for Colorado interns, it doesn't mean you have to be on campus all the time. So even our Colorado GAs don't always do their work on campus. So, but yes, Kenna, if you want to email us, if that's something that's important to you to know now, give us an email so that we can get you that correct information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
then my second question is I guess I just get confused with this. So with tuition, are you paying for the DI or are you just paying for the master's credits?
So you're paying the DI credits are encompassed in that 41 credit total that we provided to you. So within those 41 credits, I think it's 10 are technically for the DI. But and the others are for courses, but the credit hour number, the credit hour and cost is just the same across the board, if that makes sense. But you're not like paying for 41 credits and then also paying to do our DI.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was confused. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. And then Dr. Boldrin wanted to make a note in the chat that you get your verification statement of completion for the DI once your whole degree is done, including your master's. So even if you finish your hours early, you still have to finish your courses and everything because it's a program as a whole. And so I apologize if that wasn't clear. So thank you for chiming in there, Dr. Boldrin. And there was another question typed into the chat. I have a question about the student identified rotation. Do the students pick where they are doing the rotation? Yes, they do, under the confines of our requirements. And then you said the programs will give application results by March 1st. That is correct. Excellent questions, everyone. What else are you thinking?
I have a question. I don't know how to raise my hand though.
Well, you did it.
Hey, hi, I'm Haley. I had a question on the graduate assistantships. I don't know if I read it correctly, but is that just Colorado-based students only?
Unfortunately, as of this year, yes, because of the across the state hiring situation.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And then I think it's really cool that you guys like offer to cut back on the DI hours based on experience. What kind of positions have you guys accepted those kinds of hours for?
Great question. Any sort of nutrition educator like Ida is a WIC nutritionist. We've got public health nutrition educators, also food service. So those hours can count toward either community or food service. If you've held especially a management role in food service, so keeping in mind that a lot of the competencies are related to things like recipe development, management of employees, and that kind of thing. So if you were like, let's say, a server for a restaurant, it's unlikely that you will have met competencies that you would need to be a dietitian. But if you held any sort of supervisor position in a food service setting, that very well could count.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know. Do other programs do that at all?
Oh, a few, yeah. Yes. And sometimes it's called different things, but it is not something that's common. And I think it's more common for distance programs because we have more flexibility. But it's not something that I knew existed, certainly when I was in this process. And it's something that I've only seen in a handful of other programs.
Yeah, that is really neat. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, Haley, thanks. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Is it Truce? I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Give me 1 second. Hi, it's Truk.
Truk, okay.
Yes, nice to meet you, Brianna.
You too.
Thank you. So I have a question related to ABL learning program for the hours. So I work in food services at UNC for I don't know how long, since 2019. So it's like been a while. And I work as the lead student supervisor. Does this count towards the hours or
It can.
Okay, it can. Okay.
So I'm sorry, are you talking about APL?
Yes. Those are
It
my
certainly
questions.
can. Yeah, we would encourage you to apply. It's an application process where you would show your resume, what your experience was, and then submit projects. And then with that information, we would decide how many hours that you would be awarded.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
One more question is related to receptors. Do you guys provide us the receptor for rotation like clinicals at the hospital, or we have to go find a preceptor ourselves?
So we have a list that you can choose from, or you can go find them yourself if the preceptors on our list are not, in your area or don't happen to be accepting interns at that time or something like that. So it's all student identified, but with our guidance.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There was one question in the chat. So for the 2-year program and going for part-time, when it comes to the rotation, how many hours will that look like per week? About 20 hours per week, most weeks, with the exception of if you're taking weeks off, or if there are some weeks when you are available for more than 20 to 30 hours, then you could bump it up to 40. It's very dependent upon your situation, the preceptors, but we can be flexible with that. when do we get information on filling out the APL application? That will come at the same time as your DI prep course. And so that, along with most things, we update these things yearly based on feedback and based on what we've observed. So that information is currently on our website if you would like to look at it. I believe it's still on our website. However, we do not recommend starting the application because it very well may have evolved since then. Yes, I see a hand raised. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Teresa Pantenko, and I have a question about the skills that we need to do, to have this program. English is my second language, and I'm kind of shy sometimes because my accent, and sometimes I believe my English is still not perfect. So will this be a barrier for application? Uh, like second language students.
We've certainly had several English second language students before. And so I can't speak to your situation. I certainly can say that English being your second language alone is not a barrier. But what you're telling me is it sounds like you're saying that you feel maybe some shyness around speaking, which is understandable. You certainly will have to demonstrate oral communication skills because that's a requirement for the internship. So that's something for you to keep in mind. But we would still welcome your application and certainly don't want you to feel as though that's a barrier to applying. It might just be important for you to indicate that that might be a weakness that you feel is a weakness of yours, and maybe I'd help us identify how we can best support you through that process.
Okay, I have another question. I have a bachelor degree in nutrition, and
Okay.
um, do I need to work on any prerequisites before the program, or you guys accept any bachelor?
Do you have a DPD completed?
Yes.
Then there are no prerequisites. That's it. Just the DPD. So there are no additional prerequisites.
Okay, my third question and last one. I work for St. Joseph Hospital in Denver.
Okay.
And I found this program because one of your students came to do the internship in there.
Oh,
Since I'm working there, what is the possibility that I'm doing my internship there?
you could.
With this question, I'm not saying I want to be there. Actually, I don't want to be there because I would like to go to I would like to go to another place. To learn something different.
Yeah, that's a great question, Teresa. Thank you for bringing that up. So you make a good point where we don't want you to do rotations in a job that you've already done. With that said, if you're working in a hospital in a capacity, let's say other than clinical, so if you're in the call center or delivering meal trays or doing something unrelated to nutrition, you could very much do your clinical rotation there with the dietitians because it's not what you've already been doing. However, for those of you watching this, let's say you work at WIC or you work in the hospital kitchen, we would probably not approve a rotation working at WIC if you've already worked there, or working in the hospital kitchen if that's where you currently work. Because, like you said, Teresa, you bring up a great point. This is an opportunity for you to learn new skills, not to reinforce the ones that you've already been doing. So when the time comes, we'll educate you on how to go about using your employers to your advantage to get potentially other contacts elsewhere, and about what types of rotations might be approved depending on your specific situation. We're very careful not to say yes or no because we don't want it might be very different for each student, and we want to evaluate each of you as an individual and not create hard lines and rules that may not necessarily apply to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question, Teresa. Excellent. So as we conclude today, I just want to thank you all for your participation. I have some QR codes for our social media. I would encourage you to follow us. I do not look at the accounts that follow us. So don't feel concerned about that. Of course, would always recommend professional practice in all aspects, including personal social media. But regardless, I've put these up because some applicants find it helpful to learn about us as the faculty and staff at UNC, learn about our preceptors, and also see what our graduates are doing. We also just post some videos that at least we think are funny, that we do in our office. So it's a good opportunity to kind of get to see us out, step outside of the open house or the interview, or the courses we teach and that kind of thing. So I'll leave this here, and I will keep the Zoom open for a little bit in case anyone has last minute questions, but I do value your time, and I recognize that we're just over an hour here. So I want to give you all the opportunity to head out if you need to. But thank you again, from Dr. Boldrin and myself and our UNC family here. We look forward to hopefully seeing you again, and let us know if we can support you along the way.
I do have another question.
Sure. Hey, Leah.
Where can I find the preceptor list that you
So
have?
that is something that we have internally because
Okay.
I update it like 4 times a day.
Oh,
So
wow.
there will never be a finished preceptor list because preceptors are constantly moving jobs, or we're adding new ones, or updating phone numbers. So that is not accessible to the public because it would
Okay.
be near impossible to keep it updated. With that said, that's something that I provide access to. Once you have your Bear email, I can share that with you so that you can see the real-time edits once you're a student. But that's not something I'm able to share with non-UNC people.
Right, right.
If you are in an area and you're wondering what kinds of preceptors we have, I could maybe just like copy and paste what we have in your area so that you can take a look. But I do want to like preface that there very well may not be a lot of preceptors in your area that we've already worked with. So there may not be many on our list depending on where you are. But that's what that course is for, to educate you how to find them if they're not already there. So yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everyone.
I have
Well,
another question.
yes, Teresa. Yes.
I am planning to apply for the 3 years program, but my concern is about I'm working mostly full-time job. St. Joseph Hospital is facing a little problems because we switched from Kaiser wasn't there before with us, and now Kaiser took different directions. So we kind of short right now and patients, and I'm working a little bit less, but I was planning to go back like at least like working for 30 hours. Uh, and how hard will be working 30 hours in 3 years program? How classes look like how many days a week or how many hours per week for the internship? And that's probably my concern.
Yeah, so the coursework is asynchronous, so that you're not expected to go to class a certain number of times a week. That work is done more or less on your own time each semester. But generally speaking, graduate courses, I think the estimate is like 3 to 6 or maybe 9 hours a week per credit hour. And that also depends on the class. But when it comes to your rotations, we have many interns that are working part-time or full-time during the internship. Just something to keep in mind is that a lot of preceptors host interns on like a Monday through Friday normal business schedule. So our interns that are working find that working in the evenings or on the weekends works best because their preceptors, they have to be with them during the day, Monday through Friday. So you'll be rotating between 20 and 40 hours each week. And then you'll also have some internship related activities and projects that you'll be expected to do outside of those rotation hours. So I would say it's certainly possible to work 30 hours a week and then also do rotations 20 to 40 hours per week. It is a commitment for sure. And all I can say is that we have had interns do it. We've also had a lot of interns decide to either take a leave of absence or reduce their work hours, or reduce their internship hours to accommodate it. And I wish that I could tell you, like, yes, you can do it, or no, you can't do it. Or I guess I don't wish that, because that would be very pigeonholed. All I can say is that it has been done, and it can be a challenge if you're getting up to 30 to 40 hours of work for your employment.
Okay. And other question, for the internship, I know their programs. I was accepted at MSU Denver
Okay.
uh, last spring. I mean, no, this fall actually, I was accepted, and I couldn't go back. I couldn't go there because uh, at the end we have to apply for internship, and it's very competitive, and there's not many positions open. So in your program, the internship is guaranteed that I have to, like, with applying to the university to this program, it's going to be guaranteed to do the classes and the internship, so it doesn't require another application.
Good question. And no, it does not require another application. Once you are admitted to our MSDI, you are considered a student throughout the whole program. You do not reapply to the DI. Of course, we can't guarantee rotation sites will be available. We will help you find them. But you do not need to then apply to our DI. Your spot in the DI is held.
Yeah, because my concern was like finishing the program and not getting the internship, and what's next, right? And
Yes. True, that's a valid concern, Teresa. And for us, it's just one application. You're not worrying about that again come
okay,
DI.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you
Nice
for
to
your
meet you.
questions.
Thank you.
And we look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. And thanks everyone for watching this.